Hello, and wherever you're at, I hope you're doing well, and your loved ones too. The topic I want to cover on this video is a rather lengthy one. I've got a lot. There's a lot to it, and there's a reason there's a lot to it. We're talking about the spirit world. We're talking about purgatory. We're talking about grief, about our prayers of intercession, and we're talking about some of the saints. And we're talking about things that aren't exactly covered literally in the Bible. And so it's a deep topic. And for me, I'm talking about my experiences right up to very recently with after-death visitations or just visitations of loved ones to me. And I've put some things together. And it's kind of nailed down for me a more firmer belief and something we call purgatory, which actually is not unique to the Catholic Church, and I'll get into that. It's got roots in Judaism, as well as some other things, but that's not entirely what this is about. I've got into this with prayer and some study, as much study as I could do better. But I'm holding down a job that's demanding. And I thank God for it. And all these, I have the windows open. So I lit a candle because I like the candles. And these are just things I've made. They're not, if you're new to my channel, with these religious things, I made this, and I even carved this out of rock. And this is a beer mug I brought back from Berlin. And a plant from my friend Deb's, which one of my ghost stories has to do with her. And somebody I helped cross over. This was her plant, and antique glass that I like a lot because I collect old glassware. And her plant. So don't weird out with my little props. And I carved this and this badge here. Look for if you're not familiar, message in the dirt. I believe God place that there. I believe there's a little bit of the divine touch with that. Personally, that little button. Look at the message in the dirt for that story. But I just wanted to explain my stuff here so that, I'm going into quite a supernatural topic here. Quite a lot. And I don't want anybody to think this is like a talisman or that I've put any connotations on any of these things. Other than that is the cross and such, but it's just whatever it is. So I made an outline, and I've never done that before, but I'm going to follow an outline for this video so that I don't go back and say, I forgot to cover this or that, or it keeps me from going off on a tangent, as I tend to do, because there's a lot in this one, and it does have to do with my most recent visitation of a loved one, and I put it together. I'll get into that as I go on. So I'm going to go start on my, I've got an outline here. Things to cover. Just as a guide. Just so you see what I'm looking at, because, transparency, I guess you could say. Well, let me get this thing set up. I'm sorry. It's pouring out. We've had a very wet year so far. Had a flash flood warning come up. All right. Going on with my outline, I want to share a development in the advancement of my experience and belief in how and why all the people in the family of Christ should pray for the souls of those who passed before us. How and why we each should pray for the souls of those who passed before us. I might be lucky I've got a candle going. This storm sounds like it's blowing in. I got windows open in here. I'm going to cover my personal experience with the after-death visitations of loved ones right up to about a month ago. And I have one that was really different. I'm also going to talk about briefly my recent studies with Saint Maria Faustina. And then I'm going to cover the topic of the spirit world. All right? So I guess those notes meant I'm supposed to talk about these things. My personal experience with the after-death visitations of loved ones. My mother appeared to me and took me up into heaven. She died in January of 2021. And it was quite beautiful. She looked glorified. And she held my hands and looked me in the eyes and told me it has to be this way. Our separation from our loved ones. She said it has to be this way, just for now. And then my dear Jen died, as you all know that followed this channel. And I've had actually 4 visitations from her. And there were, you know, they're different. They're different. If you've ever had one, you'll know it's different than a dream. They're very focused, very brief, and you definitely know that it's not a dream when it happens. And with her, she was in a dark place, but it wasn't hell, it wasn't heaven. And she appeared to me the first time in a void. I mean, I was standing in a pitch black, standing or floating, pitch black beneath me, all around me. Pitch black, nothing, black. And she walked right out of the blackness and walked right up to me and pointed at me and said, "Tim, you need to move on with your life now." And I couldn't look at her. And she didn't look ghastly, she looked good. She looked like herself. A healthy version of herself, dressed as I remember her. But there's something about it I can't explain. And this plays into the purgatory thing. But I couldn't look at her. I went, yeah. There's something inexplainable, spiritual, that repulsed me from looking at her. Even though she didn't look bad. She looked good. And it was good to see her. Even, you know, it was good. And she spoke to me and said, "You need to move on with your life now, Tim." And she knew, I think she knew that she only had seconds to get her message through to me. That she only had seconds. And I thank God for this, because God allowed it. I'm certain. And I think it took a lot of effort from her to do this. So I'm thankful to God and to her for this message to help me out of my severe grieving. And then the second time I saw her was also a black void. And this one's kind of hard to talk about. A dark void, and then I went into, there was a door with a room, and I went into this room. Hard talking about this one. I found myself in a dark void, but it wasn't quite as dark as the first time I saw her. It was pitch black. The second time I saw her, it was black, but there was like a gray mist. It was kind of dark gray mist. And there was nothing there but a door, a modern looking door. And I walked up to the door, opened the door and walked in. And there before me was nothing but a stainless steel gurney, like in a mortician's room, with a figure laying on it with a white sheet over them. And I knew it was her, and I walked up, and it was so real. I put my hand on her shoulder, and I could feel her shoulder. This was not like a dream at all. And I said, Jen. And I felt it, and I just kind of expressed my love through that squeezing her shoulder of this figure that was completely covered over on a stainless steel gurney with a sheet. And then she rose up, threw the sheet off herself, grabbed my hand, pulled herself right up to my face, wide-eyed, right to my face, and squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. And I think she did that so that I knew it was not a dream. I'm like, ow! And she got right in my face, and she said, I love you! And I, once again, like the first time I saw her, I couldn't look at her. There was something painful. Something painful. I would even say dreadful, even though she didn't look frightening. And I love the woman, and her message to me was beautiful. But I couldn't look at her. And it's like, oh, you know, I was repulsed. And I looked away from her, and that was the end of it. And then about a little over a month ago, the third time, I found myself again in a black void, but this one was different. And I want you to know that I've been praying for her soul daily, praying to God, praying, talking, praying daily for her and others, not just her. Well, I drew a picture of this one, and it wasn't hard to draw, but honestly, the picture came out pretty, very, very accurate to what I saw in the third one. And it's very simple. Here it is. And in this one, you could see there's a black void, but there was like a white cloud in the center of it, just like what you're looking at. But there was a building behind her and an arched doorway. She was in front of that and standing to the side of it. And there was like some buildings, but they were shadowed. So I only saw this portion of it. But I saw her quite clearly. I mean, she was very, very clear to see. And she was standing in front of it. But there was, I didn't draw this in there, but there was something like a guardrail, like a wall about waist high in front of this building and the archway, and she was standing in front of that like guard whatever wall, and the doorway and building was behind her, as you see in this picture off. But this time she looked exceedingly happy. She looked happier than I've ever seen her, ever. She looked so happy, and she was waving to me, and this time I could look at her. In fact, I desired to walk to her. Quite different from the first and second time I saw her, where she only had seconds to get a message out, and I went, I couldn't look at her, though she didn't look bad, but there's something about it. I couldn't behold her. But this time I could. And she looked the same, still dressed in clothes that I remember her in, as I recall, and she was waving to me, and I could see her so clearly, and I picked up on her emotions. That's the thing with all three of these. I could not only see her, but I got her emotions completely communicated, and she was really happy, smiling, and waving, and looked joyful. And I wanted to walk to her. I felt like I was going to go to her. I had a feeling like I should be going to her, and that she was happy to see me again. And she was expecting me. That's the feeling I got from this. That she was very joyous, very happy to see me, exceedingly happy to see me, and was looking forward to seeing me. I felt like I was going to be going to her, but I didn't. That was the end of it. So there's a progression in these. They go from complete blackness, and I couldn't look at her more than a few seconds, if that. And the second one was near blackness, but gray. And she had a message, singular message, I love you. but I couldn't look at her. But I kept praying for her every day. And now this one. Still blackness around her, but there was definitely a building behind her, and she looked very happy. And I could look at her, and it was beautiful to behold her. It was a positive experience, totally. And I've been praying for her. So maybe those prayers are helping her. Prayers of intercession. And I've learned a few things. And because of what I've just shared with you, and that and some other visitations, the only other visitation I had was quite a dramatic one with my friend Brian when I was 16 or 17 years old, and he was killed in a car crash. And he took me up into heaven and had quite a talk with me. Told me about things to come in my life, and told me at the end of our walk through the Garden of Eden, it looked like, he told me, don't worry. He said, I want you to remember everything's going to work out for you in the end. He said, remember that, Tim. It's all going to work out for you in the end. And everything that he told me that was going to happen in my life came to pass. And some of it, when he told me, I couldn't understand how any of it could ever happen. But it did happen. Later in my life, just like he said, it would. And that I was going to go through a very hard time. And he was concerned about me. But he wanted me to remember it's all going to work out for me in the end. I was very lucky to have this. Very, 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 very lucky that God permitted this to happen. First and foremost, I'm grateful to God for permitting these things to happen to me, to ease my grieving. But God also knew that I would share this with you as I do, because these are personal things. So I'm going to keep going down my list, my outline that I wrote. I started reading on Saint Maria Faustina, and she was a Polish woman, a nun, that lived about 100 years ago in Poland. And she had visitations. She had a lot of things happen. I need to read more about her. But she had a lot of things happen, which include visitations from people who had died, and some of them were in purgatory. And she learned quite a bit of things. But she also, first and foremost, said that Jesus Christ visited her. I believe this. God visited me. I've seen the angels. I've seen spirits. Why? I believe her. You know, I'm not the only one that has these things happen. But she was a very devout person, more devout than me. Very devout, and God worked through her. And same with Padre Pio. I'll talk a little bit about him. But Saint Maria Faustina said that Jesus told her he was very grateful to her for interceding for souls that were stuck in purgatory and helping them cross over to him. You know, his lambs. That she was instrumental in helping them cross through their period of purgatory. And purgatory, I'll talk a little bit about what that is and a brief history of it. It's not hell. Purgatory is for Christians who are part of the family of God. The Christians who aren't ready yet spiritually. And I'll talk a little bit about that. They're ready, and they're completely ready in the fact that they believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God and they're saved. But they had some issues, like happens to all of us. And they died with those issues hanging on them. And so she said a lot about the spirits and why we should pray for them. And I'll talk a little bit about what I learned from her. In fact, I'll do that right now. I had some notes specifically from her. If I can find it. Here we are. thought. Oh, here we are. All right, lessons that I learned, notes I took from reading of St. Faustina. Some things I need to learn myself. I'm learning. I'm evolving on this. You just don't get this instantly. At least that's what I think. You've got to pray for, it takes a leap in faith. And you got to seek out instruction and truth and prayer. And so St. Faustina advises that when we grieve the death of a loved one, as happens to us all, that we shouldn't keep him there. We shouldn't keep our loved one's spirits here with our grief. And some people do that by saying, I just can't live without you. My life is incomplete without you. That's the kind of things that could keep the spirit of a loved one stuck here with us. Instead of freeing them to cross on and move through what they have to move through to reach heaven. They're saved. They're guaranteed their place. They're in the family of Christ. But they're on a journey. And I got that when Jen died. I felt that she was stuck. She was on a journey and was stuck in a place, a dark place. But she was in a fairly poor frame of mind when she died. And it's painful for me to talk about these things, and I only share this because if it helps anybody in the family of God in any way at all, then it does her soul good, and it did me good. I've learned a lot from this. See, something good comes from it. All things work for the good, for them that love the Lord, even the passings of people that we love, as painful as it is. So she said, don't keep them here with our grief. Instead, commit them to God. Pray something like, Dear God, I miss them so much, but I trust you, God, much more than I trust my grief. They belong with God, not with us in our grief. We'll be together again, if God wills it. But we need to help them move forward to God. And that's where we come in. And we have a powerful prayer through Christ in this regard. St. Faustina also said, and I don't think I've been guilty of this, but apparently some people treat their loved ones like they're saints, and they pray to the souls of their loved ones, like, for intercession or favors, or say, put a good word in for me while you're up there, something like that. Don't fall into that. I don't think I ever have. But some people may have, according to her. We're here to help them intercede. We're here to pray intercession to help them move through the journey, the purgatory, the cleansing. So don't treat our loved ones like some kind of saints, praying for them, to help us. We need to pray to Christ for those things. And once they make it to heaven, maybe they can do that. But we're talking about souls that are in purgatory. They're not in direct contact with the Lord yet. This is all, study this on your own. This is all just strivings to try to understand this. I don't think even St. Faustina understood it completely. And God must have designed it this way so that his children would seek spiritual knowledge, spiritual development. And we have to be careful that it comes from God. So I tell you right now, kind of not a disclaimer because I believe what I'm saying, but seek this out on your own. And if you don't believe what I'm saying here, fine. I don't believe everything I hear from people either. All right. Here's something I may have been guilty of doing. St. Faustina said, don't overpublish our grief to where it becomes more about us and our grieving and not about them. And people do this on their Facebook and social media a lot, to where maybe it becomes more about their grieving than it becomes about the loss of their loved one's soul, who needs our prayers of intercession. Heaven sees what the world ignores. So we should pray in private. That's what she said, Saint Maria Faustina. Pray in private. Light a candle in private. Say your prayers in private for the soul of your loved ones. Every quiet offering is worth 1,000 words. And I do this quietly. I've lit candles when I was in France in some beautiful old churches, Mont Saint Michel and St. Peter's Church there, and San Salvador, 1,000. But I did that privately. But I share this here because I'm doing this. This is like my testimony. And it may help somebody. It may give glory to God. It may help some soul out somewhere. But I would say again, search this out for yourself in prayer and study and introspection. Don't take it from me. I don't ever want to mislead anybody on here. And some of this is really, a lot of this isn't coming directly out of the Bible. But these things happen. And I'll go into that a bit. Saint Faustina also said that our prayer today can be applied to the moment of someone's death, even if they passed away decades ago. Time doesn't work the same way with God as it does here. It's never too late to pray for somebody's soul who has passed, even if nobody else remembers them. And like she said, how sad it must be for souls who nobody prayed for them, and now all the people that even knew them are gone, and they can't pray for them. So it's never too late to pray for someone's soul, even if they passed away years ago. I'm offering up prayers for somebody I knew that died 40 years ago. 40 years ago. He's probably forgotten by pretty much everybody, but maybe a few family members remember him now and then. Grave's probably covered over in dirt and grass, close to it, moss, unvisited. Well, Saint Faustina, who had knowledge in this through her experience, and I'm believing her, said that our prayers, it's never too late to pray for someone. Our prayers can be applied to the moment of their death, to the very moment they died. If we pray now and they died 50 years ago, our prayers can be applied to the moment of their death, even if they passed away decades ago. Time doesn't work the same way with God as it does here. It's never too late to pray, even if nobody else remembers them. She also said, my last note with her, keep silently praying for our deceased loved ones as long as you live. Never assume they no longer need our prayers. That is a mistake. Assuming things, because love continues on. And I've seen this. My mom still loves me from beyond the grave. I saw it. She loved me enough to visit me, to comfort me, to let me know that our separation only has to be this way just for now. And she looked wonderful, full of love, full of joy. Jen returned from the grave. She looked like she might have been in purgatory, I would say. But she told me she loved me. My friend Brian, cared enough about me to take me up into heaven, and God allowed him to, and talk to me about my life. And he was very concerned for me. So if our friendship didn't end at the grave, so keep praying for them privately. Back to my notes. was I? The topic of the spirit world is a vast one. We're not going to get it all here. No matter how much we study, we watch things to include this, we're never going to understand the whole thing. It's big. It's bigger than us. It's on a different realm than us. But we're part of it. Still, we're like amphibians. Still in the water, but we're part of it. We'll emerge out into the bigger reality and be transformed into that realm. But for now, we're still in the water. Now and then, we fly out of the water, splash, and we get a glimpse of the other realm, and then we're back in the water. Or we get close to the end of it, like a frog or a tadpole that's starting to grow legs, and they start splashing up closer to the shore in the muck, where you see their little eyeballs and their little frog legs, and they got a little tadpole. They're still in the water, but they start coming out of the water, and now they can see that giant world of light. I always thought that was that's where we're at. It's vast. So I'm going out on a limb here on faith. I'm believing St. Faustina's experiences. And Padre Pio, the other one, I'm also studying St. Pio, who was an Italian monk, a man who had the stigmata for 50 years, the wounds of Christ on his feet and hands, a mystic. I believe him too, definitely believe him and St. Faustina. And I'm not a Catholic. I see these people as really devout people who had a lot of spiritual events. They saw a lot of ghosts, even demonic attacks, some of them. I'm no saint, not even Catholic. But they're really good people, and they were recognized by the Catholic Church as devout people that we can trust. Their word. There's a great long process before they declare someone a saint. First, they have to have died, I'm pretty sure. I made a video about that. It's very hard to become declared a saint. I believe it. And Padre Pio also saw spirits that were in purgatory, like St. Faustina. And Padre Pio came after, or St. Pio, Padre Pio before he died, he came after St. Faustina died in the 1930s in Poland. She wasn't very old. She was only in her mid-30s when she died. I'm going to read more on her. And Padre Pio, as I like to call him, or St. Pio. The whole saint thing, I like to think of him as a devout person, a friend, a good person, somebody you would want to meet, have dinner with, somebody who could pray for you, advise you, somebody who could laugh with you. That's how I see them.